Well, hi everyone, I'm Stephanie Sherman. I'm one of the co-founders of Elsewhere, which is now 10 years old, and it is a living museum and artist residency program and collaborative laboratory set within a former thrift store in downtown Greensboro. And we've taken one woman's 58-year collection of things and declared nothing for sale, and now we invite people from all over the world and the Greensboro community to come in and endlessly recreate these things, explore them, activate them through events and site-specific projects, and create an ongoing exploration of art, community, and experimentation.
It's interesting here, it's like kind of at that 10-year mark, and it's the living museum part. It's the same items, right? Like, don't leave the store. So, like, over those 10 years, do you feel like it's as vibrant, like, today as it was the first day? Is that...
It's better. Every day is better. When we got to this space, it was really, really rough and rugged. I mean, it was literally a horde of stuff packed through. And the first 3 years were really just organizing and making space for people to be there. But every day, because of everybody's hard work and participation, it's more and more comfortable, more and more pleasurable. And I think as the infrastructure grows and it's more hospitable, that makes way for even more interesting conversations to unfold. And I mean, the collection is so immense. I've been there for 10 years, and every day I'm there, I discover or rediscover something that I've forgotten. So the collection itself is so vast and infinite that there's an endless stream of excitement.
Running the museum could be looked at as a business kind of administrative position, but it's more of a creative kind of navigation of people, talents, as well as doing the books and the budgets and things like that. It's really, you do give an eye to it that is more artistic than it is strictly realistic along lines.
Greensboro, like, what is the size roughly of Greensboro?
It's the third largest city in North Carolina, but that's said. I don't know exact numbers.
I think it's about 250,000, but it's very sprawled.
And there's not a really, I don't know, the arts community, it's like,
it's very small.
It's very small, so.
A big part of our story is when we arrived in 2003, we were playing tennis in the street of our downtown. So, I mean, downtown Greensboro was pretty much abandoned, and we'd like make installations in the window and talk to all the homeless people about them, and they were our best audience because they'd like see what we were doing over time and develop a narrative with us. But we were lucky in that when we got there, there was all these other forces thinking about economic development and downtown revitalization and Richard, Florida, yada yada. And but there was also really good intentioned players and like good thinking players about how to revitalize downtown. And there was a coffee shop that opened the same year down the street, and just this interplay of forces meant that very slowly over time we came to be seen as one of the forces that was having a positive impact on downtown. And now, I mean, we're at the table with the Downtown Greenway, which is a bike loop that's been converted from an old railway train. We work with the Weatherspoon Art Museum. Jenny does a lot with them, which is the kind of major museum, and they're really cultivating a community of collectors and art lovers in downtown. But then we also try to work with more community-focused organizations like community centers, and, you know, really we're trying to bring an element of, you know, everybody together. So the art people, the neighborhood people, and try to be sort of a collaborative juncture of all those things.
We have been at kind of a really interesting juncture where we're better than ever, I feel, at having strong partnerships with some of our community organizations. So people who are interested in immigration issues and people who are interested in social justice issues. But then there are also people at the universities who are increasingly turning to us for guidance on innovation in the arts, thinking about creativity and leadership and collaborative methods of organizing. And so we're doing a lot more public programming in that direction too.
Who do you feel are your peers? You know, like in the sort of arts right now, like I feel like there are a lot of people experimenting, and I think Elsewhere is a good example of that. But like, who do you look to as, I guess, models?
The history of influence was from Shakespeare and Company, which is a bookstore in Paris where people, like, it poses as an English bookstore, and then but like travelers come and then at night people sleep amongst the stacks, and it was sort of this original cultivation of an amazing literary culture, and also a culture where really sort of impactful writers were surrounded by people that were passing through and learning from each other. And so there was this very public front and then this private, intimate front. And that's where George and I, when we were imagining the place, sort of took a lot of inspiration from, just thinking about what are the contexts where people collaborate. And I mean, being at hand in glove and sort of meeting the broader network of nonprofit leaders, there's nothing like being able to bring everybody and be like, okay, now everybody can learn directly. So that's been really special.
I feel like different departments probably gather inspiration from different sources. And, you know, I run the kitchen, and so I look at a lot of like, even just like soup kitchens, and I've gone, you know, anytime I travel, I stop in to different residencies, museums, and look at the kitchens that they have. But this is like kind of the first time that I've been able to, well, hopefully I'll be able to meet some other places that are more similarly modeled, you know, as like alternative art spaces with maybe similar missions.
I was thinking today that the laundromat project is something that I can see elsewhere moving in the direction of, in terms of the way that it builds community engagement around locations outside of an art institution and embeds them into different kinds of community structures. So I guess in that they are kind of model that I can see us moving in the direction of. And a lot of the projects that just have to do with site specificity and these kind of place-making gestures, I think those people are our peers.
I don't know, I envision like, just speaking to the future that I'm not totally sure about yet, but you know, like residents coming in and working with the collection, and then maybe taking the materials that the projects that they've made and bringing that out into the community, so that it does both. It works within the building and without the building.
Well, I think, you know, Elsewhere started as much about this amazing resource as thinking through a method and a way of working collaboratively. That was really important from the beginning. So I think, you know, when we discovered this 3-story store, we felt like it was already an installation, and we were just sort of translating that in some ways to public and making it more accessible. And I think that idea from working within somewhere and recognizing the resources that are already there is a method that we're thinking about working that can be translated to any space, both kind of like abandoned and derelict spaces, but also really anywhere. I think we sort of have this desire to scope out places with a little bit of magic. And I mean, New Orleans is certainly one of those spaces as a city, but I think there's this desire there to have like the real world and the fictional come together. So that's a premise we like to discover and play with.